Did you
Uh,
hear they might be doing like a Fallout Shelter TV show game?
no.
What,
There
like a
was
reality show or
like a reality show type deal.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
interesting?
yeah. I think there was like a rumor. I think I saw glanced online or something like.
That would make sense of them trying. I mean, they've done the Mr. Beast games on Amazon. All right, we ready to dig into this thing?
You?
Dog.
Welcome to this episode of the Prestige-ish Media Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Lake, and with me are the two hottest of dogs, or some might say hot dog water, Dan McNair and Tom Chan. Dan, how are you this evening?
I'm freaking fantastic.
Chan, how are you?
I am peachy.
Cool. Initial thoughts and rating for this episode, Dan. And Dan, is the name of this title the prostrate, the prolificate,
Old guy humor.
prolificate?
That's about as good as I
Profligate.
could make it roll off the
I think it's
tongue. Was not a
profligate.
word I was familiar with.
Profligate. Okay. It said
Yeah.
something about the abundance of hot dogs or something. Season 2, episode 3. Dan, rating and initial thoughts.
I actually gave this one a solid 8.0. I don't know what it was. Things clicked for me in this episode. Maybe not a bunch of vault dwelling folk that I didn't really want to follow. But, we used to take a lot of time to go in depth on who wrote a particular episode or who directed one. For me, compared to the first two episodes this season, this seemed like cleaner writing and better direction. So I don't know if there was a switch behind the camera, but it felt a lot better delivery to me.
Tom, your initial thoughts and rating.
I thought it was a good 7.5, pretty much leaning into the whole Caesar's Legion. I thought it was pretty neat coming from the game. And then what else happening throughout the whole wasteland was interesting coming from the game. But yeah, definitely more direction for Maximus and Coop. And I still need to see where this all lies with Lucy. But I thought it was good.
Yeah, so I have this as a solid 8. I could potentially see it going higher. This is my favorite episode since the beginning of last season. Maybe it's because we didn't have to see Dane's beard. I don't know. But the Maximus storyline was definitely bettered. But obviously, we get a death that, will it continue to be bettered? I don't know. But yeah, overall, I think all of the segments of this episode clicked finally. I would say even the flashback was probably as good as we've seen. Besides, I think the Robert House one in the first episode was good. But I mean, aside from that flashback, the other flashbacks we've been getting have been more of what we already knew from the first season. And while this wasn't specifically new info, it was good character building that we didn't have before, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Some interesting cameos we'll get into.
Yeah.
What did you make of the intro with the kids with the bottle caps, Dan? I didn't watch the before the episode, but I know that guy from last season was in there. I forget where we got him last season. Did you remember him, and what did you make of this child labor going on?
So I like the intro. The character you're talking about is Thadius, and he was one of the Brotherhood, but
Okay.
he became a ghoul at the radio station.
Yep, that's reworking for me. Yeah.
And I didn't like him as Thaddeus. I thought he was kind of like a wet blanket.
And
But Ghoul Thaddeus,
I was actually higher on him than you were, but if I
okay,
remember
yeah.
correctly.
Ghoul Thaddeus gives me a chuckle. I like him a lot more. So this whole forced labor, like we're only 12 hours into our shift, we only got 10 more to go, just rooting on all the little kids and the little ghouls. It was funny and heartwarming, and I think they nailed this intro for, just what is really not super connected to the main story to start off here. Could have gone horribly wrong, but I was endeared by it.
And aren't you typically more into the boys than the ghouls, Dan? Isn't that what we've heard?
As the guy with the girlfriend right now, I don't know that you have room to
We're
talk.
Are we using those words? I think maybe that's
Actually,
more
it
disappointing.
just kind of came out.
Dan, unfortunate. Tom, what were your thoughts on that opening sequence with the bottle cap child labor?
I don't remember much of Thaddeus from last season. I think he probably must have occurred during later in
Yeah,
the
he
season.
might have checked in when you checked out, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting. They were at the factory for Sunset Sarsaparilla, which is a beverage that you find throughout the game a lot, very much. Did they ever touch on bottle caps as a currency in the first season?
They did. I mean, they didn't
Yeah.
like dwell on it, but
I,
it was established, and Dan mentioned the first episode. I think the flea soup was 2 bottle caps, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but Tom, maybe you could explain if they're a form of currency, are they just like are they making counterfeit money here? Is this a mint? Are they flooding the market? What's going on?
I would call it more like harvesting. Go ahead, Tom.
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where in this TV show where it lies as a currency right now, but in the game, it's pretty much what you collect as currency is pretty much in any game that you collect for currency. That's just what it is. I forgot what the story or the history of it and how it became currency in the Fallout universe, but there was like a mission in New Vegas where you had to infiltrate like the factory to collect special bottle caps and such. But I thought it was
Wasn't the Nuka
interesting where the
Cola
camera.
kind of I thought the Nuka Cola was like the beverage of choice in the last one that all their caps were.
That was at least in the Fallout Shelter game, I think. But, and to the point that Tom was saying earlier, I don't think they've explained how the currency works. They've just, said that the bottle cap system exists. We know that, but I don't think we have any depth of perception to it in the show. Yeah, I would say it's kind of more like mining Bitcoin, Dan, or like collecting cans for cents kind of thing. Cash ass or caps, however you get it done, I guess. But that's kind of how I took it.
Nuka Cola is a beverage in the Fallout universe, but Sunset is specific to New Vegas.
Okay, cool. That's a good game call out for sure. And I think Jones, I forget what the Jones soda is, but they have a few different special Fallout versions this season. Yeah, I thought the kid scene was interesting. Like, you think that Thadius, is kind of maybe a shithead, like abusing this labor, but compared to what we see at the end, like maybe Thadius is, this is Thaddeus's list.
Why aren't you making me money?
He's like a young Schindler, this guy, saving all these ghouls.
Also, Lois is just a bitch.
Which one is Lois?
She's the one that called the other girl a ghoul, and he turns like, Lois, did you say that? And she just like shrugs.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I guess the Legion and Lucy show up at you're calling them the Caesar's Legion, but they call themselves the Kaiser Legion, and they're in these separate camps. I thought it was an interesting thing that the girl that Lucy saved had her throat slashed immediately. And so that was kind of like a bummer because obviously she wasted that stim pack on her, and like they go on this whole journey and you kind of realize things are going wrong right away. We get a cameo from Macaulay Culkin.
Kaiser Culkin.
Yeah. And I think the Kaiser was the other guy, though, the guy who's supposed to be Caesar, but I took it kind of came across that way to me too. But there's these warring factions, and there's a note that nobody can get to. It's kind of like Hatfield and McCoy-esque, as well as Civil War. It seems like a very childish Civil War. They bring up prima noctis, which is, I guess, the rights to bang Lucy, right? And bed her and wed her. Is that how you would describe it, Dan?
My talking into my phone revealed it's a lord claiming a wedding night.
Yeah, so I think bed and wed, I think, is a good description. So
that should have been me.
Yeah. I did think that this side of Lucy, like, we get a lot of good moments from her. Like, I think if you were to picture her from last season being out of it, you just picture her as this, like, to where she could almost be a parody of herself this season, just this happy-go-lucky. But I think her exhibiting like all this school knowledge that, you know, she's learned. We know that from the last season, like she was a good shot, you know, like all these things have been established why she excels so much. And so she has all this knowledge that these people in the real world now don't have because they didn't get the schooling and the learning that she got. So I thought her correcting them on some things about their culture or their ideas or words or pronunciations, I thought all those were good character adds. What was your take on this scene, Dan?
I agree with your Lucy take. This is the first time I've seen Macaulay Culkin on screen in a long time. And I don't know if it was a character tick or the actor, but he was doing weird things with his lips and his facial expression, like every time the camera rested on him, which was mildly distracting to me.
I think he was just trying to, like, you know, do something to pretend
Yeah.
he's an actor, you know?
And then one other note, I kind of let you piss on my joke, but my favorite line of the episode was a quick half step back into the child scene, and they all shout out what they owe. Most kids are dead by this age,
Oh,
which, if
yeah.
you got my text before the podcast, would have some extra value.
Oh, yeah. I just thought it was because you were old. But yes, most it
It works on different levels.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate it now. Dan's doing a 6-7 in the background while we're at it for good
Make
measure.
me money.
He's on his trivia answering high.
That's right.
So she mentioned, you know, them being nasty people and that she's not even a virgin. And then also, if you count all the cousin stuff she's done, that's a couple of pages on her resume. So all these things were scoring points with me. I think we really, like, to your point, Tom, I didn't know that we were going to get kind of the full reveal, but we do kind of get this full reveal of the Brotherhood and the Commonwealth and the Khans and the, you know, the Caesars of it all. Do you have a favorite faction traditionally, Tom?
Yeah, they mentioned all the different factions the Kaiser is in war with. Usually, when I play the game, it would be with the NCR
Okay.
if I was going to choose any faction. But there's so many different in the game. Whichever faction or whichever choices you make, there's like maybe 5 different endings of the game where they mentioned the leader of the Caesars was dead, who founded the Caesars. That's obviously referring to the game, the Caesar that you run into in the game. So that they never mentioned the name, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and we don't get a lot of look at the new California Republic because they seem to be a little thin on reserves. Dan, did you have a favorite of these different groups that are kind of emerging?
At this point, I really don't, but just more than picking up on them, I'm just trying to geography lord it all and sort all that out.
Yeah, I think I'm a Buds guy. I'm rooting for those guys. I think I do. I like more like the where Lucy came from. Like, obviously, the overlords of those vaults are not very good overlords, but I think the people of those vaults seem to be like a pretty good embodiment of American spirit. I think it's interesting to see the directions Max is going for once. This actually seems to be a lot better character development this season compared to last season, and seeing him have to really make some choices. So I think that's interesting. I thought it was funny, Lucy saying that she would do some conflict resolution, or she had some experience in family counseling was good. And then, I mean, luckily, obviously, she isn't fully like Jesus, but she is put on a cross. I did think also, like, it'll be interesting seeing how Lucy's compass develops. Not in the way I felt like they were trying to do it last season. Like, I feel like last season they were like, she's going to turn into the ghoul. And I think that's like a very far reach, or not a character journey I would like to see. But I think, you know, we hear, I think it is Macaulay that says good is not a meaningful vector in history. And I thought that was a good quote of her having to like reconcile that even though she wants to do good, like maybe the ghoul isn't as bad as he seems in this world. Like, I don't want to see a Lucy that turns into the ghoul, but maybe a Lucy that understands the ghoul more. Any thoughts on that take, Dan?
I think what ultimately we would see in the normal Hollywood is the ghoul turning back into Lucy, and his tiny little Grinch heart is going to grow 3.5 sizes.
I definitely grow 3.5 sizes seeing Ella Purnell, but no, I think them meeting somewhere in the middle is a healthy ground probably for both of them, like him regaining some of his humanity and her realizing that, the best intentions may pave the way to being hung on a cross.
It wasn't a cross, it was like a railroad telephone pole.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. But pretty crossy to me.
Oh, definitely that's what they were going for.
So as we split that hair, let's split the difference between a boat and a pile of wood as we see the ghoul kind of going through that with dog meat. I did think that, once again, seeing him kind of attach humanity to the dog was like a positive move for him. And wasn't last season he just kept trying to get rid of the dog? Wasn't he, Dan? Or the dog just kind of kept
he gave
with
it the
him?
name Dog Meat, and I think the dog just loyally latched on and followed him.
And I think
then we
it
got
was
the Cooper backstory with his dog, so you could make that connection.
Yeah, it just seems like this was like the real final turn for him, maybe. Do you get a dog in the game, Tom, or is its name Dog Meat? What is the Dog Meat reference?
Yeah, there is a dog companion named Dog Meat. I think it's Dog Meat in Fallout 4, maybe.
Okay.
Either that or New Vegas, but you definitely get a dog companion with that name.
So we get the flashback with the wife crying over the keepsakes. Is she really crying over the fact that she's going to kill her family or like abandon them? Or what do we think's going on here?
Yeah, I think it's because of she knows what she has to do. And, going into a vault, I'm sure from a regular household doesn't seem too comforting.
Yeah. Dan, did you have any takes on that? Or, we get into the veterans fundraiser. I think the character is Charles Whiteknife. I think he's the first one that kind of tried to turn Cooper pinky last season, recurring character to kind of ground us in this episode. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, I like Charlie. And yeah, he brought Coop to a meeting that kind of started the whole thing back in that timeline. And now we're getting some weird extra scenes in the middle because it seemed like, they drew a pretty direct line with the wife and Janie and how Coop and Janie ran away and were together, but now he's trying to figure out how his family went.
Well, he came back and then he was supposed to follow her to Vegas to spy on Robert House, which we haven't seen yet. But he originally escaped with Janie, went to see Moldover, and she told him then he brought Janie back. So it was a fake runaway in that regard.
Gotcha. That does clear up some of that stuff. But you kind of mentioned earlier, I enjoyed this Cooper flashback a lot. And I do this futuristic 50s that they live in. I do think that's kind of fun. And versus when we saw it before, it just seems like the tension, the dialogue, and everything around it was a good watch.
Tom, where do you stand on talking to a Marine when he's got his dick in his hand? Question mark.
Yeah. I thought that was odd that he doesn't say anything at first. Dude, I'm taking a piss here. But that's got to be that. I'm for sure that's got to be the real Mr. House rather than what's being portrayed on their TV. I think it's an actor.
Okay. Yeah. I think that, this for sure is Robert House. And I don't think I understood the difference enough between what they were portraying on TV or not. But
you can see it's a different looking guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is definitely him. I guess he didn't put a chip in his head or something. Anything on the bathroom scene from your side, Dan?
I thought it was really good tension. Obviously we know that Coop reveals to Charlie he's got this mission of what he's got to do, and they talk about like how all the vets have killed somebody in that room, and then House is just waiting for him in the bathroom. So House obviously knows things too. So like it's not looking good for Coop. It seems like he might be a little outmaneuvered, but at least he can kind of handle his own. And I might be skipping ahead, but the whole representative Diane Welch at the podium being awkward and clumsy and dropping her cards. I don't know this actress, but the way that she did it was actually pretty endearing. Like you want to root for this.
As a staunch Green Party candidate, there is no question why you related to this flake.
Where did Green Party come from?
You voted Nader, you son of a.
I did, but where is that in this show?
No, she's a typical that candidate. She could be a libertarian candidate as well, but
she hasn't been bought by the corporations.
Republicans do not drop their business cards.
She's a typical third party candidate that also happens to be like, she's no Jesse Ventura. I'll say that for her. She was a wet blanket. And of course, you want to vote for her, Dan. Unbelievable.
Who will?
I was not even going to dignify her with a segment, but Dan wanted a whole segment.
Best character of the show.
I thought the way she did her speech, which was very good, the way you would think someone like her would do a speech.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was well played. Like, I will say that. And the cringy, awkward hell of a hellscape that it was.
Craig's idea of hell is watching a Green Party candidate give a speech.
It's one of the things I imagine will be there waiting for me. So we get, I don't know if he's Quintus or Taintus, but I'm a fan of this actor from Mr. Robot, as I mentioned before. Kind of, I think fans may be the wrong word, but I think he was better in that show than he is here. But I did think this was one of his better scenes where he gives this, I have no need for the sword. You've got this, I don't know if you'd call her like an indigenous woman that represents the great district of Yosemite or Yosemite, but I think she's your district too, Dan.
Piss you off, Craig? Because I'll vote for her too.
You probably. She's too fat for you to vote for her, Dan. But what I'll say, I know you wouldn't give her your vote.
I put all my candidates on a scale.
Speaking
a literal scale.
Speaking of which, he says to Maximus, I have no need for the thoughts of a sword. So I think last season we saw him trying to maybe be a father figure to Maximus and trying to get his favor of sorts. And obviously Maximus is the one that's provided this power, but now that he has it, he's kind of, it seems like shafting Maximus, which allows, what's your buddy's name? Kandahar? Xander Nunjani.
The Paladin.
From the Commonwealth, which, as Tom mentioned last episode, was back east, hot dog. This kind of opens the door for him to try to endear himself to Maximus. What did you make of Xander this episode, Tom? And then is hot dog kind of prominent in the game? What are we getting here, and what's familiar to you?
Hot dog, I don't know if that was prominent in the game. Probably just saying to be like how they're going with like the oldie music, 50s music and all that. But I thought it was interesting, like how you're mentioning where Quintus was trying to be a father figure, but Maximus this season seems to be seeing that he's not the man that he thought he was, because like was it the first episode or the last episode when they were having the grudge match and the guy tries to kill him, you don't see Quintus like saying anything like, what are you doing? Stop it. So maybe, and Maximus seeing that gives him some thinking of that he's not there for me at all. And then with him yelling at him, that being the dimness of the sword, you can see it on his face. That just solidifies it for him that Quintus isn't there for him.
Yeah, no, I think that's all good observations. Dan, how did you see all that playing out?
I do have a lot of notes here. First, Quintus talks about kind of how the Brotherhood was founded with this whole Roger Maxon backstory.
Yeah.
Tom, is that predominant in the game? It seemed like it was like airdropped here for a reason.
I think it's like stuff that you read throughout the games, but he's not like a character that you played in a game, I don't think.
Okay. He talks about this God versus government debate, which I actually thought was interesting. And maybe, Craig and I have talked about the boys being kind of a tongue-in-cheek parody of what's going on. And I think with some of the political stuff that's hinted and joked about in a hokey kind of way here, there were some things that I appreciated. But Quintus is standing in front of a map, and you can see Area 51, and I paused it, and you can see a location called Maxon, which might have been that like government institution that he went to and saw these experiments when he started the Brotherhood. And there were some other neat things there. And then as far as the Max and Xander show, it kind of made me think of what Craig had pointed out in Stranger Things, where in the most recent season they've taken a character you might not like so much and pair him up with somebody that's a lot more likable. And I think having Xander in Max's scenes makes Max a lot more palatable. And like Xander moves it along and it's zippy and he's quick and he's fun. So I think Max is the boat, not the plank of boards that rises with the tide there.
Yeah, and I think, he's had Dane and Taintus to play off of, and that has not gone well. Xander's dead now, spoiler alert. So we think, minimum brain dead, but seems to be dead. And, you hope they give him somebody equally entertaining, because Max on his own is kind of a drag. He didn't really add enough to the Lucy thing for me. I think the Lucy and Ghoul stuff is a better pairing. And so you just kind of hope they find a better place for Maximus this season. To your point, though, Dan, I think the Roger Maxon and Robert House and Maximus, you just called Maximus Maxon a second ago. I think the names are all a little too close for comfort. Like as a writer, maybe that's a reference point in the game, but I would maybe have chosen a little different alliteration there. They seem to be playing the God versus government thing here, but last season it seemed like a lot more of a religious order, and that was maybe overdone, but I do like the discussion of this angle. And to your point, Dan, I think it's a little less on the nose and a little more hokey, and so that makes it more of a palatable watch, I think.
Yeah, it's not super serious. And
speaking of being serious, can we be hard dick for a second? Where did you guys land on that saying from Xander? That's got to be an all-timer, and that's got to be up there for quote of the episode. Tom, can we be hard dick about this for a second?
It just reminds me of Workaholics saying where they have a saying where something is a tight butthole.
Dan, from hard dick to tight butthole, do you have anything to add?
I can be a hard dick, but I think you're more focused on the dimness of the sword.
When your mom's more focused on the blackness of the sword, from what we've heard. So all things for fodder here. Go ahead, Tom.
It's interesting where it seems like it's just a one episode cameo for, I can't say his name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Xander, character wise. Yeah, I mean, you'd hope to have got more from him. He was going to liven up that side of the board, but at least we've got a war out of it. But it seems like everybody's at war. So I think, to your point of the episode, Dan, we're kind of setting a board here that we haven't had set previously. And it's at least interesting till they prove us wrong. And we got that more into picture here.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue they've been setting the board for the previous two episodes, but nothing really happened, and it dragged, whereas here it sped.
And that's where I think they did. I thought the first episode was definitely better. Like second episode was dog, but the first episode was good. I was struggling to watch. Like I wasn't looking forward to watching this episode. And after watching this, I'm looking forward to the next episode, which is always a good sign.
Okay.
The Ghoul saying that the NCR was dusty as hell was kind of funny. I don't know. Did you grab a name on that? The main NCR character we did. I guess before that, we did get Vic, who was Victor, who looks like Vegas Vic. So I wanted to at least point that out. His face is Vegas Vic's, and they call him Victor. So that was kind of an interesting thing. I assume he's a Mr. House type of robot. So was Robert House in charge of the NCR, Tom? Or do we know?
He was like overlooking Vegas. So Victor was a Securitron robot of Mr. House. I mean, they say that in the show, but in the game, you like run into him, and he's pretty much called like the yes man. He'll say yes to anything. So is part of helping him trying to overthrow Robert House in the game and take over Vegas or something like that. But and then I thought it was interesting where he recognized Coop or Coop recognized him. And then you want to try and tie that together with Mr. House. So you want to find out what actually happened between him and House.
Yeah, I assume we'll have some sort of flashback there later. And then when, Coop does come on the Dusty as Hell NCR that's barely existing, he kind of takes their stim bottles or, whatever.
Inhalers.
Yeah, whatever he needs for his ghoul juice. So that's all going down. We get the kind of close up of the Charlie stuff at the Veterans Memorial where he gives Cooper a lighter. Cooper goes to kind of rescue Lucy of sorts. And in this kind of whole play out, Lucy's rescued, and then he sets the dynamite on fire that kind of ignites the Civil War. You're led to believe he gave away the small portion of the new California Republic, but probably didn't. I think maybe we're to assume from this. What do you think all happened here, Dan?
Yeah, my takeaway from it was that he did, but because he seems melancholy and regretful for his decision. But in the end, it's really the Kaisers that get blown to bits. I'm kind of hoping to get better closure on that.
How did you read that, Tom?
Yeah, that was pretty fun how he started the Civil Wars being started throughout the whole show. But I do wonder if whoever's remaining after the Kaiser Civil War will go after the NCR, what's remaining of them. And who knows if there's really still other NCR that's still left out there. And the whole camp that Coop investigated for the NCR, that's the whole part of the game. It's kind of almost exactly walking through what I walked through in the game.
Okay. I think
that camp was overtaking a former house of Mr. House.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that's probably what's happened here. But I think as far as the Kaisers go, I think because he started that Civil War, I mean, I think whatever group he sent out is eventually going to come back and figure out they were wrong. And then he's got another enemy. That's how I took what he did is I'm going to have a bigger enemy here now than I had before. I thought it was interesting that Lucy said thank you.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that Lucy said thank you. I am shocked that we didn't get a golden rule callback. You mentioned being tired of it, Dan, but I think this reverse golden rule was the right time to bring it out, and they didn't. But I thought just kind of an interesting portion there is we get Maximus and Xander in the plane, and then eventually where we land out with the bottle plant. He's at first going after some sort of like massage robot or something. I don't know. It seemed like an all-purpose robot. He was offering to do a lot of things. And then Xander is going to kill these kids. And we know, we did get that flashback again from Maximus in the fridge. So we know him being a kid, traumatized as a kid. I have to believe that's part of why he wants to save these kids here. What did you make of this kind of closing scene, Tom?
I thought it was interesting with the choice that Maximus made, but I mean, it all goes back to him knowing Thaddius from before. But I thought it was an interesting take on this Brotherhood Xander, because when he first showed up at the end of the last episode, it seemed like he was going to be the more civil Brotherhood guy to try to bring order to this frat house of a Brotherhood. But then when they go on their mission or whatever, he turns into a frat boy, just wants to kill everything. And then maybe that's what Maximus was like seeing is I don't want to be like that.
Yeah, and I think obviously I don't like to lean into this typically with shows, but I think it's like the subtext of him being a person in color, being a kid that was ostracized, and then, kind of the allegory that they're going to kill the ghouls and the, I forget what they called them. The blank-skinned kids were fine. It did seem like there was a mishmash where some of the kids didn't know which group they belonged in. Like, I think there were some normal kids that stayed with the ghoul that maybe had some misperceptions of themselves. Dan, what did you make of this last scene?
The thing, like, I went along for the swerve because I really wasn't expecting Xander to die. And I think to something that Tom said earlier, this was kind of a quick cameo, and wouldn't have minded seeing him around for a couple more episodes. Doesn't mean we won't get a flashback or, somehow he gets ghoulized or something like that. Like a ghoul version of Xander could be interesting too. But, they basically did make a pact that Max is going to sell out the Brotherhood and they're going to give the relic, to the Commonwealth. They reached that agreement, and it isn't until this confrontation and everything comes together for Maximus, I think, in a recipe where there's the kids, there's Thadius, he makes his decision then and there. And, it was a strong ending and a strong moment.
Yeah, and I thought it was kind of a funny thing is I might have just started a civil war, and Thaddeus is, I'm like floor manager here now, so we both got like lots going on. I thought that was pretty good. So yeah, overall, I think this was a great episode. Definitely the best of the season.
Also,
so
the rocket sledge, the super sledge is what they call it. That's a pretty common weapon in the game.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that's good feedback to have. Anything else you want to wrap us up with here, Tom?
It was good. It's a good episode overall. It'll be interesting. I think probably next episode will be a lot more on Lucy, it seems like, because they focus more on Maximus, and then probably you'll get more of her brother too. So it'll be interesting to see what next episode brings.
Yeah, I definitely think we'll get a little bit more Bud's context next episode. Dan, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I thought it was clean. Didn't have any huge takeaways from the closing credits, but overall, yeah, definitely restored my faith where it was faltering there a little bit in this season.
Closing credits, it'll be interesting that you're like in a miso silo out of Robco.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, just keep going up.
So Dan, what's your new pyramid scheme all about?
So I doubt that you guys have seen it, but you might have. There's a Netflix game that goes live every night. They've been doing it for 3 or 4 weeks now, called Best Guess Live.
Okay.
It goes every night at 5:00 our time. And it's basically, they give you 5 clues, you get 1 crack at it. And if you get it right in the earliest round that somebody gets it right, you share the money. And I got it right on the first guess tonight, so I won a whopping $196. So I'm on top of the world, baby.
That's pretty big. What was the old trivia thing that you guys used to do? Tom, what was the old trivia thing?
That's what I was going to say. That's like I think it was called like Trivia Crack. No, it was like yeah, it was an app where it went live at 9:00 Eastern or something like that every night.
It was like around 2015, I think, that this happened, like summer of then.
And it's based on like how quickly you answer a trivia question. And I think the most I ever won was like 25 cents.
To me, this seems like a ripoff of whatever that was that failed. Yeah. But at least if it's backed by Netflix, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, our parents can't have our passwords. $200.